Bow hunting is hard. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of patience, honestly just a lot of failure to get good at it. One of the best ways to learn a skill quicker is to look at people who are already good at it and do what they do, or even better yet, look at what they don't do. So in this video, we're gonna go over 3 things that good bow hunters never do. And if you do any of these things, it doesn't mean that you're a terrible bow hunter unless you refuse to correct them. If you know you do some things you shouldn't do and you refuse to correct it, yeah, you're probably terrible at that thing. But before we go over these things that good bow hunters never do me a favor, and if this is your first time on my channel, hit that subscribe button.
Nice sidestep on the doo-doo thing, by the way.
Hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Make sure you click that bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload a video. I'd also like to thank Bass Pro for sponsoring the channel. If there's any gear you need to stock up on, or maybe you want to upgrade something, use that link down below so you can get what you need, but also help support the channel. And the first thing that good bow hunters never do is get lazy with their prep. Preparing for deer season is more than just hanging your stands, checking your game cameras, and making that hit list if that's something you do. Good preparation for deer season has to include practicing as much as you can and making sure that your bow is set up properly. Good bow hunters have a bow that is set up at a good draw weight and length that is proper for them. A bow with a draw length that is too long or too short can drastically affect your accuracy by either making you push or pull your shots, or can get your head and shoulders and arms into inconsistent positions. A properly set draw length allows you to get consistent anchors every time, no matter how you're contorting to get that shot off on a deer, because we know they never come out straight in front of you to where you can get the exact same position you have when you're standing just in your driveway shooting your bow. Contrary to what you might hear, a heavier draw isn't necessarily better. A heavier draw requires more effort to pull back. But if you're strong enough to pull it back in a seated or uncomfortable position, then go for it. But if you really have to crank on it to get that bow back, then that weight is a little too heavy for you. Crank the weight back down to where you can draw that bow back stealthily without a lot of extra movement. The minimum weight to shoot a deer is around 45 pounds, and if you can't pull that back, then you either need to give up bow hunting or consider a crossbow. When you get into hunting the bigger animals, elk and even mule deer, then your draw weight becomes more of an important factor. But don't let ego be the reason why you draw a specific weight. You don't need to pull back 80, 90 pounds to shoot a deer. And so along with having a bow that is set up for a proper draw length and draw weight, you absolutely have to practice. But don't just practice on flat surfaces, on a square target for exact yardages. Practice at different elevations, different odd yardages. Don't just do 20s and 30s or 25s, do like 22s and 34s, you know, something like that. Make sure the angles are a little bit different, because those are the real world scenarios you're going to encounter out there while you're hunting. And it's probably best that you practice with a 3D target. If you're trying to sight in your bow, or you're doing some blind bale firing, you know, stuff like that, working on your form and your sight, then yes, use the square targets with the circle target in the middle to get that stuff sighted in. But if you're practicing for your real world hunting scenarios, absolutely use a 3D target. Like I said, this helps you prepare for those real world encounters you're gonna have out there in the woods. It is very, very, very rare that a deer walks out at exact yardages, 20 yards, 30 yards, perfectly broadside and straight out in front of you. And good hunters are prepared for that. And the second thing good bow hunters don't do is hunt bad stands. Good bow hunters don't waste time hunting in areas that don't have any good recent sign, or in the same old places over and over again. They put in the effort needed to find where the deer are right now and figure out a way to get there quietly and without putting their scent out everywhere. They plan their entry and exit routes. They trim their shooting lanes, and they certainly don't hunt in stands that they or somebody else shot a nice buck out of 4 years ago. That was then, and this is now. It is a very rare stand that produces big mature deer year in and year out. Even on heavily managed private lands, they have to jump around a little bit to find good deer. They might hunt the same area once every 4 years and get a good deer or something like that. I know I just kind of contradicted myself, but the reason they're hunting in those same areas is because they are seeing that recent sign right now. They don't just hunt there because something was shot out of there a long time ago. It has to have good sign right now. I just did a video about bad stand locations, so if you want some more details, give that video a watch. But the bottom line is, to be a good bow hunter, you have to put in the work to find the good stand locations. Don't just put up a stand in a random area and think that's good. And the third thing that good bow hunters never do is take bad shots. Shooting a deer requires us to be taking shots that ensure the highest chance for a quick, ethical kill. And I know that Sometimes things happen. We make bad shots for one reason or another. It happens to all of us. But the general idea is that we should be taking shots that we feel give us the highest chance for the quickest and cleanest kills possible. This is why practicing with a 3D target leading up to the season is so important, because it teaches us how different angles affect our shot placement and where the vitals are. It's also a good way to teach us our effective range, because when you're shooting at a square target with a high contrast circle in the middle, you can see that a lot farther. But when you're aiming for maybe crease where the shoulder and chest line up, or maybe something else, that's a little harder to see at distance. So it kind of helps us judge, okay, I can't shoot this far out in the woods because I can't guarantee that I can hit what I'm aiming at. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that's changed in this age of social media hunting. Everybody wants to be a hunting celebrity. So it doesn't matter how it gets done as long as we get to kill for the camera. And that's just not how it should be. This type of motivation can lead a lot of people to be taking shots that they really shouldn't be just because they need that content. Again, I know things happen, but we kind of see it more and more where you get people online bragging about how they shot a deer at 60 yards, and if you prod them more, you ask them more questions, you kind of get them to admit that it took them a long time to blood trail this deer, and maybe they even had to get a dog or two to help them blood trail it. And so if you couple that with this push to recruit new hunters, they're always trying to get new people out in the woods, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you end up with a lot of inexperienced hunters out there just flinging arrows because they saw some celebrity on YouTube or Instagram or whatever they watch this stuff on. They saw them out there doing it and think that's just the way it's supposed to be done. That's normal. And that's why good bow hunters don't take bad shots or brag about how far that deer was when they shot it. Good bow hunters talk about how close they got to that deer and how quick the blood trailing job was, if they even brag at all. Good bow hunters have also watched one of these videos over here. And so that was 3 things that good bow hunters don't do. If you do any of these things, you need to take a look at yourself in the mirror and start figuring out how you can correct them. Hit that like button if you like this video, share it if you found it helpful, and make sure that you're subscribed so you can stay informed.